referenced this earlier, but at one point you were definitely one of the top time trialists in the world. You've definitely changed your focus now for classics and even the Grand Tour and that, but you know a lot about time trialing and how to get fast at time trialing. Can you talk to me about how to be fast on a time trial bike?
To be fast on the time trial bike, the most important thing I would say is to ride on that bike a lot. When you're a triathlete, I also think a lot of triathletes, they only own a time trial bike. For me, when I was a very good time trialist, the main thing I did different than others, that with my hand on my heart I would say I did double the hours on the time trial bike than other good time trialists at that moment. So riding a lot on the bike is important, but you have to ride in a position that you don't just find like this, but you do proper testing, proper wind tunnel or track testing to see that you have a fast position, that you can also handle, that you can produce power. But when you ride a lot on that bike, the body is very adaptive. If you find a very fast position that is not comfortable, but when you do it like 15 hours a week, it will get comfortable with time. I think I had somewhat of an extreme position, but I could produce a lot of power. I would say at some point I could produce more power on my time trial bike than on my road bike, because I never did any hard workout on my road bike, because the only goal I had was time trialing. A good position, work out a lot in that position, and then if you want to be good in a time trial, in a 1 hour effort, not a triathlon, but you also have to train your body for 1 hour or shorter efforts, and there's no real secret. It will be the best with burning carbs. So all the important work you have to do to be very good on a somewhat short time trial or 1 hour or shorter effort, you have to be fueled to the max and just make your body capable of burning the most possible carbohydrates in a short amount of time, or develop your body that you can load the max to the max and uptake to the max, things like that. When you want to be good in a Grand Tour or perform very good in a mountain stage and you will arrive at the bottom of the last climb after 5 hours, no way you can only do this on carbs. Of course, carbs will be the main fuel, but you also have to develop very well your aerobic system, your fat burning metabolism. And while a time trial can be, you will use your glycolysis a lot more, and that will be probably the biggest source of power. Big difference, of course, but for the triathlete, you need that fat burning a lot. If you're a long distance triathlete, short distance, they don't go on a time trial bike, of course, but long distance, that's very different.
Can I ask you to talk about the position on the bike? And you talked about having quite an extreme position. I grew up watching Chris Boardman and people like that when everyone just wanted to get lower, 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 lower at the front, and it's gone very much the other way. Can you talk about the evolution of time trialing positions and how your experience of that has been?
Yeah, indeed, when I started out as a professional, or I used to be a good time trialist in the youth categories also, I was at a very deep and aggressive position, but I was this deep that I was almost reaching for the pads to just get there. But then I got to, in my third year as a professional, I went to Jumbo and we started to do the first aerodynamic testing, proper aerodynamic testing. First thing we did was raise my pads with 5 centimeters, and I just said this is not the right way to go. We're doing something totally wrong. But it seemed to be a lot faster, because actually my body was still in the same position, but my hands moved up in front of my head, and I was more like one bullet. Instead of this, my hands were here and my head were here, I was more like one thing hitting the wind and the rest of the body is following. So I think that's very important if you want to look at it, that you're opening up this hole in the air with your hands and you want the rest of your body to follow through that. That's mainly your frontal area you're talking about now. And then once you're past your shoulders, you're talking about the shape of your back. And I would want to look at it as a drop of water, which is the most aerodynamic shape. When a drop falls, water can take any shape that it wants, but it will take the shape of a drop, because that's the fastest way it can come down, and it's attracted by gravity, so it will take that shape. So you want your back to have the shape like a drop of water. If you want to make yourself faster on the bike and you would be able to attach things to your bike, it will be most likely to be faster with something attached to your back that makes you look like a very big time trial helmet. It's unlikely that you will get faster with making some kind of a scone on front of your bike. This will not help a lot, but it's more about how the airflow goes behind you. I have a very flat back, which is somewhat good because the air will be for a long time attached to my body. Once it gets to my hips, the air will loosen and I will get a vacuum which will slow me down. A lot of riders, they have a very high bump on their shoulders or on their upper back. This is most likely very slow for time trialing because the air will loosen very soon and then you have a bigger vacuum behind. The best thing would be if you would have a very smooth line that the air almost holds your back until it releases at your saddle, something like that, but that's almost not possible due to human shapes. You want to be small in front and have a nice shape at the back that the air is the longest attached. I think this is an important topic, like you say, so a little bit longer about this. If you go through the air, you're moving this direction, you will create high pressure in front of you and low pressure behind you. The high pressure will push you back and the low pressure will also push you back. So you want to release both or one of them. The smaller you are in front, the most likely the higher pressure is smaller. The longer the air stays attached to you, the less low pressure, the less vacuum you have behind you. It's a bit like if you have a nice car, sportive car, it will stay low to the ground. If you have like a truck which is massive and then suddenly stops, if you're riding with a bike behind, you get sucked to that. You get sucked to the car, but also the car gets sucked behind in that vacuum. Don't want that. Sometimes people think the hole often that is in your helmet over here, people would always think it's there for ventilation, but it makes me slow. But that's not true. It's depending on your position, but often a hole in your helmet here is faster than no hole because it allows a part of the high pressure to release in here and then the air will float around your head. That's also why the quick step guys or specialized riders with specialized helmets, they have this sock over their head. So there is more space for air to flow in the helmet and like this the high pressure can get released in the front.
No, it's a really good explanation of that idea of the high and low pressure. I think people can get that concept and it's a really interesting point about the fact that everyone thinks that if you could put a fairing on the front, that'd be the big difference, but actually smoothing that airflow behind, yeah, I think that'd be very useful to people doing the triathletes and that kind of thing.
In the beginning of my career, I upped my position like 5 centimeters. I used to be very good time trial rider in this position, broke the hour records, podium world champs, European champ, Belgium champ. But during COVID, I get other riders making big steps. I couldn't keep up. I moved to more breakaway riding, which was quite successful. And when I needed to get on the time trial bike, I was just not able to hold that position anymore because I didn't ride on that bike. It was too aggressive, that position for me. And I leveled up, I think, another 5 centimeters. So actually I'm 10 centimeters higher than I was in the beginning of my career. I have to say that time trial I prepared for 5 weeks, quite dedicated, like old school, a lot of riding on a time trial bike. It was in Luxembourg and I knew the parcours would suit me. And with this very high position, my hip angle was so open so I could push so much power. I wanted to do a good result, no chance in my head. I thought I would win the time trial, but I did with this extremely high. You can even see on the pictures that if you compare this to my old school position, I'm way up higher, but I pushed very good powers because I can produce a lot of more power with this open hip angle.